Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Silver. Joining us today is a man who needs no introduction, the legend himself, Jim Rogers. Jim, great to see you again, sir.
I am delighted to be here, Ivan. I'm a fan.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure having you back here, Jim. So, Treasury Secretary Yellen says spending bills will be anti-inflationary and will lower important costs. What's your thoughts on this?
Oh, gosh. Oh, well, Secretary Yellen has a couple of very famous Ivy League degrees. So we have to listen to her, and she is the Treasury Secretary, but she is wrong again. I don't think I've ever known her to be right about anything. And I mean, most economists would laugh when they hear someone say something like that.
Yeah.
So I have no confidence in her yet again.
Well, that seemed like more of a political statement that she made as opposed to an economic one. Would you agree with that, that she's just talking politics and not really reality?
Jim, of course, she's trying to keep her job. I mean, she's a politician. She's in Washington. All of these people try to keep their jobs. They say things that they think will help them keep their jobs. It's not good for you and me. It's not good for the viewers, but they don't care about us. They want to keep their jobs.
Something else that's been in the news, just this week is, have you had a chance to see the Jerome Powell's recent FOMC statement that happened the other day, and their new interest rate policy to begin the taper, $15 billion?
Well, I don't know if I've seen I mean, he says a lot, but yeah. I have, if you mean because they say they're going to cut back on buying so many bonds, I have seen that. Hooray. Why didn't they stop that 10 years ago? Why'd they ever start it? Mm-hmm. But yes, I have seen that Mr. Powell says they're going to cut back their buying bonds.
What do you think is going to happen? How do you think the market's going to handle this? Do you think it's just going to be a nice smooth taper, or a taper tantrum like they had a couple of years ago as they started to pull back and stop the taper?
Well, either way, I don't think this is the end of the stock market. It may be the end of the bond market, but it's certainly not the end of the stock market being fairly strong. Usually it takes more than just one or two. In fact, when I first started in the business, the rule of thumb was that you don't worry about the Fed until they've raised interest rates 3 times. Oh. First time it scares people, second time it scares people, the third time it's serious. Who knows? Those were the old days. But this is not yet enough, I don't think, because they're still printing huge amounts of money in central banks all over the world. There's some are starting to be cautious, but it takes a lot to kill a bull market, especially after you've printed more money than has been printed in the entire history of the world.
Jim, there's been a lot of news about energy shortages coming for Europe. What's the risks and how big of an impact could this have on the market?
Well, there seem to be energy shortages. It's for real. I mean, the price of energy has gone through the roof, whether it's coal or oil or gas. I mean, I'm not the only one who sees what's happening in the markets, and the markets are smarter than I am. Yes, there's shortages developing, but Ivan, all over the world, people are saying, close the coal mines, stop using coal energy, stop using oil, stop using atomic energy. That's fine if that's what people want, but you have to understand the consequences that you may go over there and turn the light switch and nothing happens. Now, if that's what people want, that's fine. They can vote and say no more coal, no more atomic energy, et cetera. But there are consequences of things like that. And one of the consequences at the moment anyway is the price of all this stuff is going through the roof because there's no supply.
Yeah, it seems to be China's just having these rolling shortages. And I don't think people quite understand how serious this gets in terms, factories are shutting down for parts of the day where they used to go full bore. And this sort of, this trickles into the supply chains and everything else. It's Do you think that, so, I mean, I guess the big crisis lately is the supply chain disruptions, right? Are you thinking this is something that's a short-term thing or more longer term? I don't know if you've thought about that at all.
Jim, I think about all sorts of things every day. I have to,
Yeah.
I have to pay my bills. I have to pay the light bill, whether the lights come on or not. Of course, I've thought about it. Well, first of all, there is, as you probably know, the cure for high prices is high prices. When you have high prices, two things happen. One, people start producing more, and secondly, people start using less. So eventually, the high prices will lead to lower prices, as they always have. And likewise, the cure for low prices is low prices, because when things are too low, people stop producing and other people use more. So this has happened many, many, many times in history. I do know that prices of these things are going up a whole lot. I own a couple of I own one uranium stock. It's going up, hooray. But it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the fact that we want electricity. And price of coal is going through the roof. I'm a director of a coal company. My gosh, we can't believe how much money we're making. Not that we're doing anything different. It's just that people have closed down all the coal mines.
Yeah.
Again, if that's what people want, they need to understand the consequences.
Jim, you're currently in uranium. Do you see it going higher or do you see it going lower in the future?
Well, I own it. I'm not selling it. So I guess I think it's going higher.
Oh, come on, Ivan. You got a better question than that. Come on.
Okay.
I should ask you guys. You guys are smarter than I am.
No,
Should I sell it? I am not selling it.
Well,
Ivan, even if you tell me to sell it, I'm not selling it yet.
Well, you know Rick Rule. I'm sure you're familiar with Rick Rule. He started that uranium trust, and he's a big investor in all these uranium stocks. His thought when we interviewed him is that some of the uranium miners might be a little bit ahead of themselves in terms of their current valuations, and they were, he thought they've moved up a little bit too quickly.
Well, that's what happens in most markets. Things move up, they get ahead of themselves, and they go down ahead of themselves. I mean, that's the way markets work. Nothing new. I mean, Rick's a smart guy. There's nothing new about that.
So what are you thinking about gold and silver lately? Have you been surprised that they have, it seems like in the larger macro environment, this should be the perfect time for gold and silver to shine. I mean, have you been surprised that they really haven't taken off in the face of all this, what objectively seems like positive news for gold and silver?
Well, the last time I spoke to you all, I explained that I certainly do own silver and I certainly do own gold, but I'm not buying it, and I have not been buying it for a while. I'm not buying it yet. I do plan to buy more, probably a lot more, of both gold and silver, because before this is over, both of them are going to go through the roof. When I start buying again, I will buy more silver than gold because of current prices. I mean, silver is cheaper. Silver is down, 60% or something from its all-time high. Gold is down only 10% or so from its all-time high. So when I start buying again, I will certainly buy more silver than gold. And by the way, I've never sold any of either, because silver and gold is something that everybody should own, even if just a little bit, as an insurance policy, if nothing else. I told you before, I'm an old peasant, and all of us old peasants like to have a little silver under the bed and a little gold in the closet. Because when things go wrong, we know, all of us old peasants know, don't believe the bureaucrats, don't believe the politicians, but silver you can believe.
I think you've told us in the past that you like to invest through some ETFs as opposed to picking individual stocks. Do you have a specific gold or silver ETF that focuses on miners, or anything that you favor more than others?
Well, I do own a gold stock at the moment. But yes, well, I own some physical. See, this is silver. I promise you, it's silver, and it's real silver. And this is real gold.
I believe you. Don't break a tooth on those things.
So I do own some physical, and I will buy more physical, but I do. Basically, there's an ETF on the New York Stock Exchange that has not just gold and silver, but it has regular metals. I mean, copper, nickel, and stuff like that. And to my delight, you know, solar power and solar cars use lots of copper. In fact, an electric car uses several times as much copper as a gasoline car. So using this ETF, everything goes up, which metals, I mean, nearly all metals go up to my delight. So I hope the best of both worlds.
With the dollar being devalued, do you see a digital currency backed by precious metals anytime in the future? Like, do you think China will do it first?
I'm sure that someone will do that. It's a very good marketing approach, if nothing else. I don't know if any governments will do that. I think, isn't there at least one now that's backed by gold for some reason? What?
Kinesis is they have a crypto backed by silver and gold.
See, you just have to ask Wall Street Silver, and you get the answer.
Yeah, some people have speculated that China might, in the future, back their currency by gold if they were to, want to step up. But I don't know.
Well, China already has digital currency. I mean, in China, you cannot take a taxi without. You cannot use money in a taxi. You cannot buy ice cream with money. You can only use digital money, and it's getting stronger and stronger. They're way ahead of the rest of us. I mean, everybody's working on it now. And I don't know why China would feel the need to have a gold-backed digital currency, but who knows? Who knows? I'm sure somebody, more than one person, is going to do it because it appeals to a lot of people. I mean, go on the internet, you'll see that a lot of people would love to have a gold-backed currency.
Do you have any, are you at all involved in the crypto coins? Any of these digital tokens or cryptos?
I am not. My wife is buying NFTs or NTFs, whatever they're called. My wife is interested, maybe even enthusiastic in these things. She doesn't. I have never bought nor sold a cryptocurrency.
Gotcha.
Jim, I wish I'd bought a lot of Bitcoin at $2. We all do. But I will confess to you, I have never bought nor sold any cryptocurrency. I would also hasten to point out, that there were hundreds of them. Hundreds have already disappeared and gone to zero. Now there are thousands. And I'm sure more of them will disappear and go to zero, but I have never bought nor sold any of them.
Yeah, it's an interesting market. I have a lot of trouble. My wife made me buy one of them, XRP, because her girlfriend was bugging her all the time to get it. So I caved and I bought one. That's the only one I bought. Other than that, I'm mostly in the silver and gold and the mining stocks around those things. But
so you're rich.
Yeah, not quite. Not quite.
And your wife is richer.
When I come to Singapore, you're gonna have to buy me an ice cream because
I can buy you an ice cream. I have some money.
You'll be able to cover it. All right, thanks. I might take you up on
that. Jim's CPI numbers, they're around 5%, but we believe it's way higher, around 10-15%. And you have Elon Musk and Jack Dorsey tweeting about the inflation. So do you see hyperinflation coming in 2022?
Well, hyperinflation in 22, I don't think that will happen in the United States, not the United States of America in 2022. It may happen. It has happened in Venezuela. It may happen in other places as well. Well, inflation is certainly going to continue and is going to get worse. Hyperinflation in the US, I don't see anytime soon. It doesn't mean it cannot happen. It will not happen. It may well. I own US dollars, but I would, because when bad times come, people chase safe havens and they think the US dollar is a safe haven. But my view is it's going to get overpriced in the next period of bad times. And then I'll have to sell it. And then where will I put my money? I mean, I don't know. Maybe all of it will go in silver. I don't know yet.
Are you leaning more towards stagflation? Is the likely, near-term economic environment we're facing in the United States? Stagflation?
Well, that is probably going to be the outcome, because they're printing enough money to keep economies alive anyway, and not just the US. I mean, the Bank of Japan, they print unlimited. His word is unlimited amounts of money, and most of them are doing it. So I think that the economies can struggle along, not booming, but not a collapse, not initially anyway, because, I mean, Jim, if you give me $5 trillion, I will show you a very good time. And they're showing us a good time. They're going to continue to show us a good time.
That's all? 5 trillion? That's it? That's all?
Okay, 10. You give me 10. I'll give you a double good time.
Yeah. All right. Have you given any thought to what's the way out of this? I mean, in the late 70s, 1980, Volcker was able to raise the interest rates to stop the inflation, but it just seems like we have so much debt now. The concept of raising short-term interest rates to 20% just seems completely, laughable. What's the ultimate solution here? How do they get inflation back under control when they can't really raise short-term rates?
Well, they can raise short-term rates, and they will, but when it starts hurting, they're going to panic. Mm-hmm. They want to keep their jobs, A couple of people the Russians raised interest rates a little bit. I mean, some people are starting to happen, and it's remarkable to me that the Russians have done a better job with the currency and interest rates than many other countries. The Russians.
Yeah.
And it's not so much the Kremlin. It's got this woman there running the central bank who seems smarter than most of us. So it is starting to happen. They can raise interest rates, but once it starts hurting, they will panic. I mean, they will panic and do their best to keep interest rates low and to revive markets. Mm-hmm. These people are not very smart. That's why they work for the government. They had to get a government job.
Yeah, or they do that revolving door thing where they go do the speech they do speeches at Citadel for $200,000 a pop, and then they go back to government, right? So
I will leave that to you and Citadel.
Yeah. No, I just find it, something. I don't think they're stupid. I think they're smart and they know what's going on. It's just politically they're sort of trapped, and they can't do. They can't say what needs to be said or do what needs to be done. I mean, do you get the sense? I mean, these people aren't stupid, right? Or
Jim, I didn't say they were stupid. I just said they're not very smart. I said they're bureaucrats.
I guess there is a difference. It's a fine line.
Yes, well, they're smart enough to keep their jobs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's right.
They want to keep their jobs, and they know how to keep their jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, if they came out and said, "Oh my gosh, we're going to have a disaster," they'd lose their jobs, and they know that. They're smart enough to know that. I don't have a job, so I can say we're going to have a disaster eventually.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a time frame when you think we've gone too far, or when you think the rails it starts coming off the rails? 2022. Do you think it's going to be a rough year?
Well, just we've had the longest. You talk about the U.S. for the moment. We've had the longest bull market we've ever had in American history. Doesn't mean it cannot go on another 10 years. I have no idea, but we already are beyond historical norms. So I'm sure we're getting closer, but I don't see. I see the signs of bubbles developing. Bonds are certainly a bubble. Bonds have never been this expensive in history. Property is starting to be a bubble in some countries. Go to New Zealand or Korea or some places. Stocks are beginning to have bubbles, but not everything has gone up yet, Jim. So we're starting to see the signs of bubbles, but it's not scaring our U.S. central bank enough yet that they're going to do something about it, something significant. So I would suspect it's going to come to an end within the next year or two, but I am terrible, terrible, terrible at market timing.
Are you invested in any of these alternative, renewable energies? Is there any that you think are viable? It seems like, coal is politically on the outs. Nuclear is tough as heck to get approved in the United States and most of Europe, not France, like you mentioned, but most of Europe. And natural gas, we're sort of limited in our. Are any of the are you involved in any renewable energy plays?
The answer is no. I do own coal. Speaking of, nasty things, I do own energy, gas, oil. I do own some of this stuff, and it's not because I know what I'm doing. It's mainly because I know that they're not economically competitive. Most renewable energy, most wind power, solar power, et cetera, requires subsidies to be viable. And everybody wants to give them subsidies because, everybody wants clean air. Nobody's against clean air, but most of it, and I have not found an economically competitive or economically viable company yet. They may be out there. I just don't know them because I'm so lazy.
Are you in any other commodities other than silver? Like, are you in sugar?
Well, no, I own the agricultural ETF on the New York Stock Exchange, RJA. Agriculture has been a nightmare for decades.
Yeah.
The average age of farmers in America is 58. In Japan, it's 66. These are not fake numbers. The highest rate of suicide in the UK is agriculture. Mm-hmm. Millions of Indian farmers commit suicide because this has been a horrible place to be for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. So either the price of agricultural goods, items, has to go up, but we're not going to have any clothes. We're not going to have any food. It's starting to happen, but it's nowhere near high enough to solve the world's problems, agricultural problems yet.
Well, Mr. Rogers, we really, we only have a half hour of your time, and we really want to thank you for having joined us today. We always love to have you. Our audience loves to hear from you. Once again, we from Wall Street Silver, thank you very much for joining us.
Jim, Ivan, anytime you guys want, we can do this again. It's always fun, and who knows, maybe we'll all learn something. I certainly learned something.
Yeah,
from you.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate
Thank you very much,
it,
sir.